Hey guys, welcome back. And today, this is the first video review request I've had. Roma Sheets is the name of the YouTube channel. My card side gig is called Flower City Cards. I do run a grading service. I'll provide that information in the description below. Give it a look if it interests you. But today I am going to be giving a review of a 15 card submission for one of my customers. He sent this in, just received it today. So we are going to be going through his card review. So Tin, if you're watching, feel free to reach out. You have my contact information. Any questions at all. So there's going to be, I guess the flow of this video is going to be, the first part will be what you see here. We are going to live review each card, followed by the second portion of the video being us looking at the potential prices and me giving a recommendation based on the grade I think each card will get and the expected return for each. So we'll have two parts to this. This is how I will typically do these as these start to come in more and more. It was a $15 flat fee for Tin to have me basically go through and do this live. Otherwise, this is something I provide as an additional service. It's $1 for each card to review, and it's $15 flat rate for myself to go ahead and make a video. So let's just jump right into this. So we have 15 cards. I've already taken them out. He sent them in top loader, all packaged up well. So basically I am going to go ahead to get a better view of these cards. I'm going to go ahead and take them out. So what I have here, which you don't see, is I'll just bring in the focus here. I have another set of light off to the side on top of the iPhone kind of stage that I have that gives you that kind of standard circular light pattern. So I have two light sources. What I'm going to be doing in this video, because it's really hard to pick it up on screen, is I'm going to be kind of looking to the side. The card will be here, but I'm going to be looking to the side, and the iPhone light for me works really, really well. I would highly recommend having as many sources of light as possible, and you're just trying to pick up the hardest thing. The things that I've seen people miss the most are the really small, faint light scratching on the hollow foil, and then the same thing applies for the backside. The centering is pretty easy to pick up. So if we kind of speak to the centering on this first card, the top side is a little bit heavier than the bottom, and the left side here is a little bit heavier than the right side. In my experience, I've seen cards 10 with this kind of centering. I know they do tend to be a little bit more strict on the vintage cards versus the modern cards. So that is something right there, without even looking at the hollow foil, that could set this back from a 10 to a 9. And then the same thing goes for the back. You can tell the right side here, which would be the left side on the front, is a little bit heavier, and the top here is a little bit heavier than the bottom. So like I said, PSA is a little bit more lenient when it comes to centering, but for these vintage cards, they do tend to grade a little bit harsher, at least in my experience. So now let's take a look at the hollow foil. So I'm angling it like this because I have another light source coming in from the side, so that I can get a really good view of the hollow foil. So I am not seeing anything, even small scratches. I'm taking all kinds of angles here. So I don't see anything. I am going to look at this, transitioning between here and the spreadsheet I'm putting together. I'm going to look at these again off camera, but this looks really, really clean on the hollow foil. So from a hollow foil perspective, I think this is a really good shot at a 10. And then if we go to the backside, again, we are looking for, whitening around the edges. We are looking for any kind of scratching. So I'm just going to kind of lean this, and there may be some specks and things that have kind of collected from the penny sleeves and the top loaders, making sure that those are cleaned off so that You know, we're not seeing something that isn't really there. I would say the only thing I can see, it's really hard to catch on camera, but you could see that really small white dot there. Potentially could set that back. That may be seen as, you know, something that a grader would catch. And then it's really, really hard to pick up. But down here, I'm gonna see if I can catch this on. Yeah, so you can see this, see the glare underneath the E and kind of trailing straight down. So you see a very, very light scratch, but it is there. You do have kind of a scratch there. So that's something, you know, they may miss that. I am looking really hard. Obviously for this, I want to be able to give you a really good recommendation of what you should do with these. But my initial thought for this card, I think there's a shot at a 10 if some of those things are missed that I covered. Otherwise, I think there's a good chance at a 9. And otherwise, if you get a really, really harsh grader, which is possible, could see something as low as an 8. I don't think there's a shot for this to get below an 8. Okay, so moving into the next one. This is our Blaine's Charizard Japanese. So looking at the centering, maybe the top is a little bit heavier, but left to right isn't horrible. Maybe the left is a little bit heavier. The back looks pretty good. Again, I'm gonna look at this at kind of an angle, using the other light that I have here. Let me see here. So again, I'm not seeing anything. It seems like you got these from someone who really took care of the cards, or you pulled these yourself. But overall, this looks really solid. I am seeing some like slight scratching on the back. I'm going to do my best to capture it, but like really, really faint scratching. It's kind of at this angle, like right there. You can kind of see it. Yeah, like you could see a little bit there. See that, how that's coming in there? That kind of glare at the streaking. So that's I mean, that's how hard it is to capture it. Again, I would give this kind of the same rating as the Dark Charizard from Team Rocket, but that looks really, really solid. So I would probably put it at probably a 9. Shot at a 10. Shot at an 8, but I don't think that's going to get lower than an 8. Okay, moving forward, we have our Gyarados from base set. Let's look at the centering. Centering a little bit heavy on the top relative to the bottom. On the front, and the front centering is what they put the most emphasis on. On the back, I'd say maybe similar. So now, you know, centering isn't horrible. I would say it could pass. Like if everything else was perfect, this centering could pass as a 10. I've seen worse get through. And then I'm going to look at the surface. So already I can see some pretty prominent print lines and scratching. I'm going to try to get this on screen here, but it's right along the right side of the card. You can see that there. Try my best here. Yeah, so right there, massive print line. Unfortunately, this will not get the 10. And there were some other kind of really minor scratches on the bottom side there. I'm doing my best to try to capture that. So definitely won't get the 10. I can see, you know, some similar, it almost seems like this is a print. This is like a print defect, but you could see those streaks. See the streaking there? Try to get up super close here. You can see all the white streaks trying to, yeah, so right there you could see, and you can only get this if you have really, really good lighting. So I'm thinking, you know, this isn't probably an 8, potential 9. I don't think I see this getting a 7. I don't see anything major enough, but this is probably a solid 8. So overall, not bad for the Gyarados. Okay, getting into the next card, we have the Ancient Mew. I already love this because you can see a massive swirl right in the middle there, right by the foot. So let's take this out, give this a look. I don't know what the pop is in this card, but I can't imagine it's very high. Look at, I mean, this whole thing is holofoil. Centering is definitely heavy on the left side compared to the right side. And then it is, I guess, maybe a little bit heavier on the bottom, but I think left to right, it's definitely heavier. And then if we look at the back, I think right side here is heavier. Top to bottom is not horrible. And then I'm going to start to look at the surface. I see kind of right above his head, I see one kind of larger one that I don't really need to do much to get in the camera. You can see right above his head there. That is a scratch or a print line. So I don't think this would get a 10 just because that is pretty right there. Right? That is pretty noticeable. And then trying to pick up. There's maybe some really, really faint print lines, but I'm thinking that one kind of larger print line right there is really going to set it back. And let's look at the back. So this, okay, so so I'm seeing like indentations. So you see right there, try to get out of the way of the light, but you could see these like little dots. Those are indents in the front of the card. And then there's some more right, see that right there? See this like center line and right to the left of it? You see that? So right there, and then right there, it's really hard to pick up. Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is probably like a 6 to 7 candidate, probably a 7, depending. I mean, once you get into the lower grades, it gets a little bit more subjective and harder to predict. The higher grades are easier to predict because there's just fewer flaws. But for something like this, I would put this in the 6 to 7 range. And if a grader misses it, you know, maybe you'll get higher. But unfortunately, those dents, I think, are really going to set it back. Okay, so moving on, we've got our first modern card here. We got the Galarian Zapdos V alternate art. So first things first, let's look at centering. So the bottom does appear to be a little bit heavier. Left side maybe a little bit heavier, but I am being critical. So overall, I've seen 10s much worse than that when it comes to centering. The centering on the back, again, really just the same takeaway. I think the right side here is a little bit thicker, but overall nothing too crazy. Let's look at the face and the scratching. It's really hard. I guess it's kind of helpful that they have this texture, because if there are any scratches, it's really hard to pick them up. And I think the same thing goes for the graders over there, but I'm not seeing anything on the face, on the front, and then on the back. Pretty standard modern card. I don't see any scratching or anything. However, there is like a very little, almost like a nick or a catch. It's like really, really hard to pick up there. I don't know if you could see that, but that might be enough to set it back to a 9, even an 8. I think it's very possible that scene is like almost like corner damage. unfortunately. Yeah, so I'm thinking that would probably be like an 8 or a 9. Probably an 8. Probably 9 at the very best, and I think it would be a relatively weak 9. Okay, moving forward here into probably my favorite character rare. Never actually held one of these, never pulled one, opened up plenty of Cosmic Eclipse, but yeah, this Pikachu is a outstanding card. It's beautiful. I know it's very sought after. So let's take a look at the centering. Centering looks really good. I don't really see any issues there that would retract it from a 10. And then as far as the back goes, it's really the same thing. I don't see any issues there. So let's look at the front, and I am going to tilt this so I can get a look at the face and pick up on any. I mean, these character rares are just so hard to grade, especially from the Sun and Moon era. You know, you have so much opportunity for error with all this holo foil. But that being said, I am not seeing anything. Maybe on Ash's cap. Nope, that was just a white dot. Got that moved. I'm not seeing anything on the front here that would retract this. The front looks, in all honesty, flawless. I don't see any problems with this card on the front. And then on the back, I mean, I'm seeing almost like my standard. Let me see if I could put something behind this so you could see maybe a little bit better. That's not going to work. But right there, like you can see some very faint whitening. It's almost it's just the way it was cut. And then same there, you have a very, very, very small white dot right there. It's kind of hard to pick up. I would say all four corners have something. Not a lot, but when you're looking at like down there, I'm kind of picking that up well. You got some almost like some whitening there, and it's like a raised edge. That could be glossed over by some graders, and other graders, you know, will let that slide. Overall, this is a chance at a 10, and I think this is a strong 9. Okay, just counted through the cards. Looks like we have 9 left. Moving on to our next one, we have our Marnie full art. Again, this is a Black Star promo. We're going to start by looking at the centering. I'd say maybe the right side's a tad bit heavier. Overall, I don't think this is a horrible centered card. Let's say the back, maybe the left side is a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier. Top, a little bit heavier. On the front, looking for defects. The bottom left corner, it almost has, I don't know if you're seeing that right by my thumb, but it almost looks like it's a raised edge from where it was cut. I don't think that's a dent, but unfortunately, it's how the grader is going to interpret it. I don't see any other issues on the front here. Maybe we can get a little bit better look from this at the back. Let me see here. Yeah, so I think it's almost like a little raised edge. It's really, really odd. It's hard to tell if a grader will look at that as, I mean, to be safe, I mean, I would probably say this is going to get a 9, maybe an 8 worst case, and I think a really long shot at a 10. I did see a couple other just really small white dots, but I would say that's a 9, possibly an 8. Okay, moving on to our Snorlax VMAX. I'm going to start with centering. Centering on the VMAXs is always, you know, a little bit tougher because you've got to kind of look at the top and the bottom. I mean, when you're looking at the bottom, you're kind of looking at the bottom relative to the other two sides. I don't think the centering is bad. Looks to be pretty standard for a modern card. I don't think anything with the centering would put it back. And then for our back side, I think the right side is a little bit on the heavier side. And then I would say the bottom is a little bit heavier. So looking at the face now on the front in the light that I have here off to the side, I don't see anything on this card. I'm typically, I mean, the things that'll show up most on VMAXs are on the glossy part because of the texture on the majority of the card. Scratches and stuff won't really show up well on the textured part, so you're almost kind of saved by that. It's the glossy part where things like scratching and stuff will show up. So that's something to keep in mind for VMAXs. And then for the back, again, I'm going to kind of tilt this and take a look. I don't see any issues. I don't see any scratching whatsoever. So I think there is a good shot at a 10, always a shot at not getting the 10 and getting a 9. Okay, moving forward, we're going back to vintage, sticking with Japanese. This is our Kangaskhan Jungle Japanese. I would say for centering, the right side is a tad bit heavier. Top to bottom, maybe the top side is a little bit heavier. An argument could be made there. Got some whitening here. On the back side, I'd say top side, a little bit heavier. Left to right, not horrible. And then for the face, looking at this on the side here, it's really hard to tell, and there's a really, I mean, I doubt I'm going to be able to get this on camera, but there is the faintest print line just above his claw that kind of extends to the border of the holofoil on the left. Yeah, you can kind of see that right there, how it's starting to form, like very, very faint print line right there. Yeah, if a grader catches that, I don't think this is gonna 10, unfortunately. And then the only thing I saw on the back on the first time we were looking at this is there was there's whitening right there. I was able to pick it up right there. And then you got some scratches that I'm also picking up with this angle. But I think this is probably a good shot at a 9. Worst case, probably an 8 for the Kangaskhan. Okay, moving forward to the Ditto. Let's take this out, take a look. So centering, left to right, top to bottom, looks pretty good. I would say maybe the left side is a little bit thicker than the right side, and then top to bottom is okay. And then on the back side, left side maybe a little bit heavier, bottom side maybe a little bit heavier here, but it's really not far off. It's not horrible. And then for the holofoil portion, yeah, I'm seeing some pretty big print lines. So right there, it's really not hard to pick up without a lot of light. So I would say this is probably best case gonna be a 9. And then if we go to the back here, I'm seeing some kind of smaller print lines and then one larger one over to the side here. You can see it kind of extends up and down the entire length almost of the card. So you know, I would probably put this between an 8 and a 9 again. I would say probably gonna be a 9, but I would say it's 50-50 between 8 and 9. Okay, moving to the Jolteon. You see here, so starting off with the centering, say maybe the bottom's heavier a little bit, not anything too crazy that would knock it down significantly. On the back side, pretty similar. And so you'll have to excuse me, I hear our dog whining in the background. So if you hear whining or barking, that's what you're hearing. But now we're gonna look at the surface here. I'm really not picking up anything on the surface. The front looks really, really good. And on the back, take a look here. There's almost like, oh, that's a bummer. I'm gonna try to catch this. It's super hard to catch this in the light. The top left corner is actually like creased or bent. I'll try to do my best here to catch this, but yeah, it's almost like damaged. Oh man, this is tough to get on camera here. There's almost like a little imprint because it's white right there. It's really not, it doesn't want to pick it up. Let me see if I can catch it on the front, maybe. Yeah, so you can kind of see that, how it almost kind of like lips there at the very edge. But there's like a line that's like this, so it was almost caught. And unfortunately, because of that, I had like a what was it, a Delta species reverse Umbreon. I sent it in. I tried, because it's that right there is super hard to pick up. I tried sending it in anyway, and they got a 4. So they clearly did not miss the crease. I would say that has got to be anywhere between a 4 and a 6 because of that indent in the top. All right, getting into the dark Machamp. It's a beautiful card. You have a massive swirl right there. I mean, that's just a really cool looking card. Look at that. For centering, I would say the top is heavier than the bottom. Left to right is pretty good. On the back, we have, again, top is, I would say, a little bit heavier. Left to right isn't bad. And since we're kind of here and I have the angle, you could see these kind of scratches right on the bottom of the card underneath the Pokeball. I'm thinking that'll set it back right there just because it's so easy to see. And then I don't know what this is, but I don't know if that's actually just an ink error, like an ink splotch, but that is not coming off with me just kind of trying to wipe it off. So I'm going to leave that. I think those two alone, this is not going to get the 10, which is unfortunate because the front looks beautiful. And then if I'm taking a look at the front, take a look at the hollow foil, see if I can pick up on any. I don't see any scratches, so unfortunately it seems like the back side here is going to knock this down. I would put this at like 50-50 between somewhere between an 8 and a 9. Okay, so for the dark Dugtrio, again, similar to the Machamp, beautiful swirl right there. These Japanese cards are just a lot cooler than their English counterparts, even though I know the English go for quite a bit more. It just seems like the hollow foil pops quite a bit. On the centering side of things, I would say that get this in the camera. Centering, this is probably one of the best centered I've seen yet that I've reviewed. And then on the back, really the same thing. This is one of the best centered cards I've seen yet out of this submission. So Let's move forward to the front side, see if we can catch anything on the surface. It's such a light background that it's you know, even if this has scratches, it's going to be very difficult to pick them up. I am not seeing anything on the front. This looks very clean. And then on the back, let's take a look. I'm trying to look for, again, the scratches that you really can only see from an angle. At this point, if I find anything, it's going to be really difficult. I would say this has a really good shot at a 10. I am looking at all different angles and I am not seeing anything. So I'd say this has a strong possibility at a 10. And, you know, there's always a chance of a 9. So I would say when I say there's a strong possibility of a 10, I would say I'm almost never more than 50% confident, because it's just really tough. Even if you have an amazing card that looks great, there's just no guarantee. It's all dependent on the grader you have on that, you know, on that given day. So moving forward, we have our last two. We have our Japanese Marnie card here. So starting off, we are going to look at the centering. Centering looks maybe a little bit heavier on the left side, a little bit heavier on the right, or I'm sorry, a little bit heavier on the left side, a little bit heavier on the bottom side. On the back, I would say, you know, maybe a little bit heavier on the top side. The back isn't horrible. It's also harder to look at the backs on these modern Japanese because it kind of fades in, but I would say the right side is definitely a little bit heavier on this card. So now let's look at the face, see if I can see anything glaring. And I am not seeing anything on the front. Let's take a look at the back, see if we can spot anything. And I'm looking at all different angles here. The only thing I would say possibly that could get this card any kind of issue is, you know how when you cut with really dull scissors, it'll almost be like a perforation. It seems like there's a really small amount of that right here, but it's so hard to pick up on camera that I don't think anything I do is really going to do it justice. It's really tough to tell, and I don't think, you know, I think something like that might even be missed. So I think there's, you know, probably a similar potential for a 10 as the Dark Tug Trio for this Japanese Rosa. So good chance for a 10 on that card. And then getting into our final card of this review before we jump over to the spreadsheet and look at the prices, we have our Marnie. I'm going to take this out here. So first off, looking at the centering, very obvious that the left side is heavier. It's almost pushing the envelope of what would be acceptable for a PSA 10. I would say I've seen modern 10s get through with centering like this, but it's not super common. And then on the back side, again, you know, I would say the left side is a little bit heavier, or I'm sorry, the right side, which is the left side on the front, is a little bit heavier. And then let's look at the face, see if I can see anything under light, and then bring it to you guys up in the camera. I am not seeing anything. I'm not seeing any major scratches here, so that looks good. And then on the back side, see if I can pick anything up. So I am not seeing anything, and I am not seeing the same. I'm not seeing the same issues on the bottom edge that I saw on Rosa. However, that centering does kind of concern me. I would put this at maybe like a 10 to 25% chance of getting a 10, just because of that left border and how thick it is. So at this point, I'm going to kick it over to the spreadsheet. We'll take a look after I've done some research on these cards. Take a look at the projected return. I charge $17 per card, assuming $17 is spent. I don't know what the individual has spent on the card, but I guess what I'll basically do is I will create a spreadsheet. I will give you a projected, obviously projected market rate for each of the grade or the range of grades, so that we can make a educated decision on whether or not to send each of these cards in. So let's jump over at this point to the spreadsheet.
Hey guys, okay, so we're jumping over to the spreadsheet here. Going to take a look at each of these cards and their expected return. So I've got a total of 15 cards in here. Total cost at $17 per card for 10 was $255. My estimated shipping cost, this is insured shipping there back, and then for me to send the cards back to 10 are around $40. This isn't the biggest submission, so looking at around $40. And then I've got this kind of broken down. I'm counting the projected number of possible tens. So down here, I'm basically giving a projection, my lowest possible grade that I think each of these cards will get, and then the highest possible grade. Over here in the next two columns, G and H, we have our lowest possible grade, associated market value right now, and then the highest possible grades market value cost at this point. Right now, I am using, let me see here. I'm going to try to get, yeah, so I do want to show you guys where I'm pulling this data instead of sifting through eBay. I do recommend using 130point.com/sales. From here, if we wanted to type in dark Charizard Japanese PSA 10, you will get the latest and greatest, most up-to-date auctions. So you could see here, I'm basically taking kind of like an average of recent sold. So we had one sell 6 days ago for $630. We had one sell for $650. And then I just kind of looked at, the last few days to a couple weeks and then take an average. And that is the number that I populated here. If you want to be conservative, you can just take the lowest number, because at the end of the day, we're trying to be conservative. We don't want to send cards in that aren't going to give us a return. This is a little different for 10. He is sending in, or has sent me, some kind of childhood cards. So on that end, if you're sending in cards that you're going to hold on to, their sentimental value, obviously this is really not applicable, right? You're just trying to get them sent in slabbed so you have them over the long term and you can preserve the card for a longer period of time. So if it were me, I have two larger submissions in right now. I have like 250 cards in. I'm always trying to send in cards that will help me pay for the submission fees. So I'm always trying to send in cards that I think, specifically modern, that are tens, that will I'll be able to turn around and sell for, a good profit margin, 50% plus. So I just wanted to give a brief background of my strategy when I go through this. And then here, we basically have, and I've already provided this to 10, but we basically have the expected market value minus the cost per card. I know there are some other fees such as shipping. I didn't include those here. So in reality, the return is slightly lower if you divide this shipping cost out across all 15 cards. Tin and I have spoken already. He has seen this. He elected to bypass grading the Jolteon. So that Jolteon is on its way back to tin. I sent it back to him in a plain white envelope. So he is electing not to grade the Jolteon, so I will hide this. And he was refunded his $17 grading fee for that. So all that being said, if we actually let me see here. If we delete these out because he is not grading those. If we look at the lowest possible market return, we're looking at just shy of $1,000. And if some of these, specifically the 2 Charizards and then the Rosa and the Marnie Japanese cards, if those hit the 10, you're looking in the $3,000 range, $2,000 to $3,000 range, right? For expected return. And again, he's not looking to flip these to pay for this submission cost of $255, right? He's looking at probably sitting on some of these as they are childhood collectors items for him. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys, when you sign up for the review service with your grading fees, you can elect to have something like this created for you. And again, this video is a $15 flat fee I made for 10. Over time, if I begin to get a volume of these piling up, I may have to adjust my pricing. But for now, as we're kind of getting started out with this new service, that is my price structure. So again, if you guys stuck around this long, I appreciate you sticking around. Please, feel free to subscribe, leave a like. 10, best of luck to you and your grades. I'm hoping we get you some high grades, and hopefully we get a handful of 10s for you. So again, guys, thanks for sticking around. See you next time.